All right, guys, welcome to the DDM podcast. And in this episode, we got Fielding Shredder. A lot of you guys probably know him from Hyperdrive, the little competition series they did on what was it, Amazon Prime, or no, it was Netflix.
Netflix.
Netflix,
Yeah.
and then, but I know him because he has the coolest name in drifting, and uh, is your name really Fielding Shredder? Like, is that what the
Yeah,
birth?
man.
That's what the birth certificate says, huh?
Legit. Yep.
That's not even fair. Like, like that is like a name from a superhero movie. Like it's just something that you wouldn't think was reality, but that is the coolest last name ever.
That's right. I figured I have to do something cool with my life. I can't just let it go.
It's awesome. Cool, buddy. Well, obviously, if people want to go find out more about Hyperdrive, they can go check you out. But I actually want to go talk about more about how it is. So you're obviously from Texas, so I kind of want to get more into what's it like drifting in Texas, in the South. I feel like it's got its own little vibe, and I've been there a couple times, and it's really fun to go to like the Lone Star events and whatnot. But like if anyone else across in the other parts of the country, have you? Because you've been around a little bit and have seen other parts of the country. What's kind of like makes Texas unique compared to other places?
Well, I think lots of little things. I think one big thing that, I'm sure you've heard the saying, everything's bigger in Texas. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that much is, of course, true with drifting as well. Our tracks are typically much larger, not all of them, but a handful of them. Like we run the Texas Motor Speedway infield course,
Mm-hmm.
which, if you're familiar with it, it's the fastest entry in the entire Formula Drift catalog.
Mm-hmm.
However, they changed the configuration. So before they used to do it and they were going too fast. I think Daigo clocked like 116 mile an hour entry.
Mm-hmm.
And at FD was like, okay, maybe we should chill out a little bit. Someone's going to die. Well, Lone Star configuration is that. So we run it counterclockwise, which is the configuration that FD used to run, which is the
Mm-hmm.
fast way. So
Yeah.
fast, big, we used to run Mineral Wells a bunch, which was just a massive, basically worry-free parking lot that had no curbs or
I
light
think
poles or anything.
it was an old helicopter pad from long
Yeah.
like the 50s or
Sure.
something, and it's just enormous. It is the biggest piece of slab of concrete I've ever seen in my life.
Right, exactly. It was like a quarter mile square of concrete, maybe slightly bigger even.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great place to learn because, if you hit anything, it's going to be a cone or maybe another car, but you're not going to go off track. There's no curbing, there's no buildings or anything immovable that you would want to, that you might hit. So
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is it's very welcoming and inviting because we have so much room. Lots of drivers of all different types and interests come out. So we have our own little crew that's, we've got our own style boys, we've got our own FD wannabes, we've got our own grassroots diehard. That's what category I think I'm in. We've
Mm-hmm.
got our own missiles, and we've got, even the beginners, stock cars or simple basic cars that are beginners. It's really
Mm-hmm.
friendly environment for everyone. So we typically have enough room to set up two different tracks. So we'll set up a pro-am or a more advanced course, and then we'll have in the back corner somewhere a really small like skid pad style course,
Mm-hmm.
which will be a couple of corners or a figure eight or something like that. So um, just getting all walks of life out here and being able to drive with lots of different people is great, and you'll see the pits kind of click up. You'll see the style boys go off and they'll kind of drive together, in single laps where they don't risk hurting their cars, and then the
Mm-hmm.
missile cars go out in 10 car tandem, and that just turns into instant mayhem, and then
Yeah.
the cars that are maybe, or the comp cars that are practicing for competition will kind
Mm-hmm.
of go in 2 car tandem and really try and push the envelope. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just nice to have all that. And then we have a pretty wide scope of different track setups. So we
Yeah.
run some parking lots, we run some road courses, and we run not just competition events, but demo events and all kinds of different stuff that just makes it a really well-rounded scene to be a part of.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, like you said, everything's bigger in Texas. I mean, when the one event I went to, it was just insane. Just the amount of
Yeah.
trains. Not alone, obviously the number of cars was really high, but like, it was like every run, you guys were just sending tons of cars, and for the most part, it was working out pretty well. And it was cool. Something really interesting, an interesting concept that you guys did down there was called pinball. Do you kind of want to explain what that is?
Yeah, I think that was one of my more favorite events, I think, because it had this freestyle element, and it was something unlike anything else in drifting that I've seen. And basically, it was a smaller track that had a bunch of different barriers and weird configurations. And typically in drifting, you have a very specific course layout and a specific line that you're trying to follow with clipping points and
Mm-hmm.
zones and so forth. Well, this was just freestyle. So the lead car's job was to go out and just lay down whatever lap they wanted. They got to go anywhere they wanted within the confines of this box
Mm-hmm.
and go throughout the obstacles and just lay down a sick lap. And the chase driver's job, which was really the challenging part, was to follow them wherever they went. And that was what was unique, is that you don't know where they're going. So you can't anticipate a corner or a transition or a clipping point or anything like that. It was your job to really keep you on your toes and
Mm-hmm.
have quick reaction time based on what they're doing and be able to read the car in front of you and see kind of like as the suspension loads up and as the wheel speed changes, kind of anticipate what they're doing. And it was really enjoyable. I think it was probably hell on judges because they had to just, know, did the lead car mean to do that, or did they just completely flub and then like try and save it and be like, oh yeah,
Right.
that was totally what I was intending to do, and like that part of it was tough. But I think overall it was pretty well received. There were some drivers that hated it, but a majority of us enjoyed it and just kind of made the most of it. It was kind of a nice little bonus round that you don't really get to see very often.
Yeah, no, it was a very interesting concept when I saw it. And I like at first I was like, well, how in the world is a follow driver gonna follow the car when the lead when he doesn't know what the lead's gonna do? But you
Right.
guys, the nice thing was is it was still low speed for the most part stuff, so it wasn't like trying to enter on crazy high speed entry corners and not knowing what the lead car is gonna do. So that was kind of what helped. I think the competition actually work really well, was because since you guys weren't going insanely fast in this
Right.
competition specifically, it wasn't the danger factor wasn't really there as much, or like,
Yeah.
and so it kind of made things a little bit easier for on the follow driver at that point. But yeah, like you said, it was really cool to see different I guess elements that you, whether it was a snake or there would be like a box, or a couple other things that I thought were really cool that you guys used. Um, and
What
so
was
that
crazy too about that event is we actually did a 30 car tandem train inside that tiny pinball box. I've got a video on my YouTube channel. You'll have to go check it out.
oh well.
And it was just absurd. I can't even believe that every car didn't get totaled, but we pulled it off somehow.
Yeah, and like you said, there's not a lot of room, so
No.
you know it's cool though. It's one of those. It's a different element of driving that I don't think a lot of people get to practice, and it's just reacting to the situation. And
Right.
I think that can be really. It's really important, especially when you're driving in your 10 car tandems, is being able to
Yep.
react to the situation, whether the car's spinning in front of you or is just brakes a little earlier than you're expecting or something like that, and just getting, or if you are spinning, getting out of the way kind of things. Do you
Yeah.
kind of want to go into like just like drift? I don't know if you want to call it drift train etiquette, but like stuff that you've learned when you're in those types of situations, and hopefully being able to just save your car from getting smashed from
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
everyone
I'm
else.
no stranger to making mistakes and crashing
Mm-hmm.
my car. I've
Yeah.
I've made mistakes and crashed my car a bunch of times, more
Mm-hmm.
than I can count or care to admit. But
Yeah, but you
it
learn
definitely,
from it.
yeah, exactly. You always learn from it. There's always something to take away from those incidences. And I think with Lone Star, the mentality that everyone is imparted upon is that seat time is king. So where we may not have the most stylish cars or the most built cars or the fastest cars or whatever, everyone most everyone's main focus at Lone Star events is just driving as much as they can, having the most fun,
Mm-hmm.
and learning and growing and developing those driver skills. So, there are lots of cars that show up. In fact, at round one, we have over 100 caged cars, and then about another 60 to 80 non-caged cars show up just for round one. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
mayhem. and that's why we run 10+ car trains to try and get that line cut down as quick as we, you know.
Right.
But mistakes happen, and obviously there's visibility challenges depending on how much smoke the cars in front of you is making and stuff. So, you learn a lot, you learn quickly, and what I love too is that when mistakes happen and cars collide, almost every time, people get out and jump in and help. And, 9 times out of 10, both drivers shake hands or give hugs or help each other out with parts or, labor, whatever needed to thrash and get the car back going. So, I think learning a huge amount in a short amount of time is because we really focus on that seat time. And I think that's what's helped develop Texas drivers much quicker than maybe some other parts of the country, because we have that focus.
Plus, you guys can drive most of the year without
that's
a problem.
Point. We don't have an off season. We have events literally every single month, multiple events, and we have different track. What am I trying to say here? Different clubs and different, like Lone Star Drift is not the only course.
Yeah, I think Club Loose is down there, and
we've got Club Loose. We've got a couple other smaller outfits that help with beginners and that rent out different track setups, and then we got Lone Star, which is huge. I mean, it's very conducive for drifting here in Texas.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool that you can talk about how 100 cage cars can show up to an event like this, and it's just amazing to think that that's possible now. I mean, 10 years ago, I don't think you're getting 50 out there.
No. 10 years ago, let's see, that would be 2010. There was probably, we'd be lucky to fill a top 32, Yeah. So it's grown tremendously over the years.
Yeah. Have you noticed, what kind of segments have you noticed kind of getting more into drifting? Is it a lot of the same, skater guy kind of stuff, or is it like a different demographic now starting to get into it from what you've seen?
It's kind of a mix. I think there are certainly the video game generation have been interested in drifting for one reason or another, that now find it accessible because cars are getting cheaper and track time is also more abundant and available.
Yeah.
You're always going to have the wealthy families that buy into it because it's a glamorous sport on the media, so that's a huge part of it. And then I think too, like hobbyists, unfortunately, like the car scene is dying, which is really sad, but drift itself I don't think is dying nearly as quickly as some of the other scenes, like I don't know, racing or lowrider or show car, that sort of stuff. All those kind of scenes are really diminishing, whereas drifting as a whole is still growing, even if it's a slow growth.
Yeah. With that growth, do you think drifting is less, I guess, is it more formal now than it used to be? Like, did you guys used to do like crazy stuff back in the day that you don't do now, or is it still just as wild as it used to be?
No, it's definitely gotten a lot more strict with a lot more rules and regulations, which is a good thing, to be honest. Back in the day when I started drifting, which was about 2009, there were 20 cars that would show up to an event, and 3 of them could tandem, and tandem was like plus lengths away, like just basically both on the track at the same time. We didn't wear helmets at some venues. We had no rules, and no one, you could, because there were so few people, you could do basically whatever you wanted, and no one cared. And now it's much more regulated. We actually have tech inspection, which is good. We have a proper rule set and a rule book in place. We have helmet rules and stuff like that, which is all good things. So it was definitely Wild West back in the day, but it changed for good reason.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so now that you kind of were able to travel a little bit around the country and do some drift events around the country. Is that correct? Last year?
I finally started to do some traveling, and it's been really cool.
Yeah. So what's like a track outside that you've I guess didn't know much about, and then you got to go drive and thought it was really cool?
I mean, I knew about Grange, in California,
Mm-hmm.
and I just always wanted to go. And then I went for Super D in 2018. That was actually the first event that I traveled outside of Texas to go to,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an absolute blast. I mean, I got to tandem with Naoki and like be
Wow.
around all these iconic drivers and this beautiful track, and like I did shitloads of laps, and
Yeah.
I did so many laps I got tennis elbow because of
Really.
too much and shifting and stuff. Yeah, like, and I wasn't even complaining. I was just like, I'm in so much pain that I can't drive anymore because I've driven so many laps. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
That's
And
really
so
cool.
yeah, that kind of like sparked, the travel bug in me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously a lot more expensive to go outside of the
Yeah.
state for me. When I can, I do it. And then just this last month, I went on the Drift Week adventure,
Yeah. That
and
sounded nuts.
yeah, that was crazy. And so I got to travel and do 7 different road courses along the way. And so I got to see some really fantastic facilities. Some I had heard of, some I had not.
Mm-hmm.
Indy Motorsports, for example, was in Arizona. I'd never heard of
Mm.
them before. And we
Interesting.
went, and it was one of the most beautiful tracks we've ever been to. It had a lot of
Really.
elevation change. It was challenging. It was fast. The surface was really nice. I mean, that was like a treat. And they don't usually allow drifting there, but they
Mm-hmm.
let us. We had a good time there.
That's really cool. Yeah, because I know Texas Motor Speedway to me is a really nice track, like super nice facility. But yeah, for you to talk about another track like that, it must be pretty sweet. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it made Texas Motor Speedway look like a garage. Like it
really.
was, it was beautiful. And like you show up, and there's a bunch of old like classic World War II and older, and some Vietnam like fighter jets, and
What?
it was, it was like a museum, dude. Like all of them were just on display in their original livery. Like you could
What?
walk right up to them and touch them if you want. So the owner is a aviation nerd, and
Really?
so like collects these
Sweet
aircraft.
claims. That's cool.
Yeah, dude, it was unbelievable. I mean, just I could have not driven and still had a great time just looking at the airplanes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like Drift Week was like a huge tasking event on just not only obviously because of the length, but I mean just on the cars and everyone that went and how long it was. It was. I remember when I heard about it through Dustin, that Aaron was doing this, and I was really curious to see how it was going to work out because, he kind of like was going to do like a drift, like a drag week thing, but for drifting, and I got that.
Right.
But then I heard how long you guys are driving. This
Yeah.
isn't like this isn't like a 2 hour drive over to another track. It's like a full day drive to these
Yep.
places,
It
and
was it was gnarly. Like just the first day. So the first day we were at Harris Hill, which is in Austin, here where I live,
yeah,
and we were sending it over 100 miles an hour airborne. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos, but like
yeah.
it was absurd the kind of dumb shit we were doing. And then
You're like, oh
immediately
yeah,
the
we still have a week to drive these cars.
yeah, like the next day we had to make the longest trek, which was from Austin to Albuquerque. It's typically about a 12-hour drive. For me, it was 16 hours because I had so many problems along the way. But can you imagine 16 hours in
A
a drift
drift
car
car.
with drift alignment, with bucket seats, with no heat or AC, like just on the highway of, Texas highways? It was a nightmare. That
Yeah.
was just the first leg. Like literally, that was the first one stop that we had to do.
Hmm.
6 more stops.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how jealous were you of Matt Field's Corvette?
Yeah, I was definitely jealous of that thing. He was
It was just
cruising in style, man, luxury.
and that's interesting though. Have you that I feel like that drift chassis is actually just going to become more and more relevant as the years go by, just because they're coming down in price.
Mhm.
Have you seen a lot more of those around your area pop up and stuff start
Yeah,
driving?
absolutely. The
Mm-hmm.
C6 is blowing up, and Aaron is encouraging it, and
Yeah. Oh, that's
it's
right. He
it's
has one,
actually
doesn't he?
yeah, he's got two now.
Oh wow.
He blew his up, so he bought another one while the other one gets fixed. But must be nice, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, at our Coda demo, which was just about 3 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
we had more C6 Corvettes than S chassis.
What?
Isn't that insane?
That's
Like,
crazy.
the fact that that's even real, yeah.
It's interesting to watch the evolution of the vehicles, you know. I really did think the FRS BRZs were going to take off more than they did, and they obviously, you don't see a lot of them.
No.
It's really just been a 350Z, and now, and then it was like the E46s that were coming pretty popular, but now it's almost
Mhm.
like it's into the, because you don't see many E92s,
No.
BMWs,
Yeah,
you know,
electronics, I think.
you know. So it's now kind of converted into the Corvettes, which is kind of interesting to just watch the popularity of different vehicles, you know, start to come into play.
Yeah, the Corvette's such an easy car to start driving in. I mean, it takes like two or three modifications, and it's like a ripper right out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
The Mustang's actually pretty good too,
Oh, that's
if you
right.
can figure out the steering. But other than that, like both of those cars are very potent chassis for sure.
That's cool.
I think we'll see a lot of them coming up in the future
Mm-hmm.
couple of years.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into what got you into drifting, and uh, I guess what does it bring to your life? You know, like, so why do you drift? I guess is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, what got me into it was just watching a video of Kaguchi sliding his 180SX
Mm-hmm.
around Ebisu. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have to try
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm so deep into it, like I don't even know what else I would be doing with my life.
Right.
I have no idea. I know I can't stop. I'm fully addicted, and I'm wild about it. But yeah, it's just something that I enjoy. The car control aspect is what really gets my rocks off. So that part alone is why I think, or the core basis of why I do it. Just being able to control a car that's out of control, and put it within inches of your target and follow another car and that sort of stuff is really exciting. It gets me the adrenaline going, and when you do a really good lap, it gives you a huge sense of accomplishment. Um, yeah, I think that's my main motivating factor. But there are obviously a lot more that goes into it. There's a whole
Well,
range of things I
so
got now.
were you like a gearhead before you got in? Like, did you know all of the mechanical side of the like vehicles, like how to change what or like switch up suspension or do modifications and stuff like that before you got in, or was that a process that you kind of learned as you were drifting?
Yeah, it's definitely something I learned throughout time. I mean, my parents weren't into cars or racing or anything. I never had any like outside influence like that. I just liked cars as a kid, and then when
Mm-hmm.
I turned 16, I bought a crappy Honda and started
Mm-hmm.
modifying it, and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of learned along the way. I've never had any formal training. I've
Mm-hmm.
not got a tech degree or anything like that from, any sort of automotive fabrication or anything like that. I've just learned along the way. I've had a few mentors that have taught me a lot, and really just out of necessity, wanting
Yeah.
to drive. And as I break stuff, I have to fix it, and I never have been able to afford to pay someone to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
so I got to do it myself.
Right. Yeah, because you do all your own body work now. You want to kind of quick. I don't know how many people know about this, but you extended your S chassis. Kind of. Well, I guess the first question is why, and then
Yeah.
kind of how. How did that all
Okay.
work
Yeah.
out?
Um, for years, actually, Chelsea Denofa told me that I needed to lengthen the traction arm on my car. And other sources were telling me not to do that, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to do that." And then one day for like an off-season testing, I was like, "Screw it, I'm going to try it." So I lengthened the arm, like you said, and you reset the rest of the suspension arms,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of do like a sweep. So as the suspension compresses, you can see what's happening with the toe and the camber.
Yep.
And so I set all that up just like Chelsea advised me to. And then I went and drove the car, and it was like twice as good of forward traction. So it
Interesting.
gave me a ton more grip, and it really made the car much quicker in drift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, holy shit, this really worked. I feel like a fool for not doing it years before now.
Right.
And so then, when you put the over fender back on, it now like hits the back corner. So the wheel has been moved back in the chassis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just it drove so good and so much better that I decided I would move all of the bodywork around the suspension so it didn't look stupid. So that's where the genesis of that lengthening of my car. I didn't move suspend or subframe points or anything like
Okay.
that. That would have essentially not done anything really. But
Right.
I lengthened the traction arm and then reset the rest, and it kind of rolls the knuckle, so it has a
Interesting.
little bit
Yeah.
of anti-squat characteristic, and then it also changes the toe and camber gain as the suspension compresses.
Hmm.
So I got some 2F LFCs, which are the full corner over fender and taillight section,
Yep.
and it was really easy to just mount them about an inch and a half or 2 inches farther back on the chassis, and then just fill in the gaps as needed.
Yeah.
And there you go. My car's 2 inches longer and doesn't look any different.
Yeah.
And drive.
It is interesting because I just never thought, like that would be, something that someone would want to do. But now after you
Yeah,
explain it, it makes sense.
yeah, it's definitely weird, and that's why it took me so long to try it, because I was like, I feel like Chelsea's just jerking me, like he's just trolling me, trying to make me do something dumb, and and it turns out it's like a pretty common thing on S chassis, but not a lot of people will move the bodywork to make it fit and look right. They'll just let the tire cram into the over, or it's everything's cut out, and they don't care, something like that.
Oh, you mean you don't want to put holes in like all the FD drivers do? You just put holes in
Right.
the.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to avoid. I definitely prefer the car to look like a car. So I don't like the Swiss cheese chassis that look stupid to me.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own style. I get that, and I know that function over form sometimes takes precedence. But I think like a lot of times there's a way to make it look clean and look like it's designed or engineered to function and still have an aesthetic appeal.
Yeah. Your idea of aesthetic appeal is very interesting to me, just because usually by the end of the event you don't have many body panels left.
Yeah. Depends on how the weekend went, yeah. But I always show up with all of them on there.
Yeah. No. And that was always something I could count on. It was like, yeah, Fielding's gonna lose half his body panels at some point,
Right.
and it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
But
you better have cameras rolling because shit's gonna start flying soon, right?
yeah, that's awesome. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like, and I feel like that really fits into like the Texas style. Is like you guys make your cars definitely presentable, but it's
Mhm.
not. You're not for the. And obviously, there's going to be the people that are don't fit in this category that
Sure.
you're in your group. But I feel like when I went there, a large majority of them were like good quality builds, and they look nice, but you guys weren't like running like $3,000 wheels. You guys
Right.
weren't like slammed to the ground. You guys still had some suspension play, so you were able to get at least a little bit of grip out of there and stuff. Um,
Right.
and so it was very happy medium from being an FD car, style car, and a style car. I really did like that about at least a lot of what you guys do out there is it's kind of like an in between. You guys take a little bit of both, and really.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of that is just practicality, right?
Hmm.
So Aaron Losey has done a great job of encouraging all of his drivers to have a presentable car that is still reliable and can thrash a bunch of laps, but he doesn't want only missiles. That'll make the events look stupid and no one will want to come, and
Right.
especially the media guys.
Hmm.
And so, we do have rules that say when you show up, your car needs to be presentable. It needs to have all its body panels. It needs to have
Hmm.
X number of vinyl and stuff. So like we have a windshield banner, a door
Hmm.
card that all matches, that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then as the event goes on, obviously things can get thrashed, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Everyone, at least in the top 20 or 30 cars, we all have a really good sense of practicality, and making sure the cars not just perform well but look good as well, or look
Hmm.
as good as we can afford. And that doesn't
Right.
mean that it has to have name brand stuff. It just means you have to have a little bit of care and a little bit of effort putting the cars together, you know putting everything on it as best you can, all the lights, all the bumpers, that sort of stuff, trying to make it matching wheels or close to. It doesn't have to be the exact same wheel, but maybe if you're going to paint them all the same color or something like that.
Yep.
And then I encourage everyone to go with a theme. So that's big for me. Like, stick with a theme. If you're going to go VIP, go all the way. If you're going to go race car, go for it. But don't put VIP wheels on a race car because that looks confused and not good, you know?
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting point on driving what you can afford and like making the car look like what you can afford. And I think you kind of saw the interesting opposite, not necessarily opposite end of a spectrum, but I saw you at Final Bout this weekend, Special States South. So a ton of those cars had a ton of money in them, but it looked like some of them could have used some more seat time, and it makes you kind of wonder like the value of seat time versus how much money you're putting into a car. And that's why I kind of like what you guys are able to do is balance that, and I think that's an important lesson for especially people starting out to kind of grasp, like driving at your, I guess you could say, price point with obviously you can make your car presentable, but don't just make your car presentable and good looking if you're not going to drive it, if you want to do drifting,
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and that's why we're here. At least it should be. We're here to drive these damn things. They're not, Monets that you hang on the wall. Like, and two, for you, from a media guy perspective, I'm sure it's much easier to shoot cars in rad tandem, even if they're not the prettiest, versus like gorgeous car that's spinning off track. That makes your job long.
Yeah, so this was the thing, and like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed. I was down at Final Bout filming a couple of teams and stuff, and I enjoy it. Like, I get it. But it's always kind of annoying when you go to an event and you fly across the country and then you're watching single runs all day, for the most part. Or like watching guys trying to not spin out every corner, And I'm not saying that this event was completely just all like that. There was definitely some people that knew how to drive and good driving and good teams. But then there was definitely a large portion where it seemed like they needed to do some practice drifting before they really should have been out there, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, if I want to go to a grassroots event, I will go to a grassroots event, But if I want to go to a high profile event, I want to see some high profile driving. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I know those guys are looking to get that one beautiful shot of their car drifting with some smoke and some steering angle. And if you capture it as they're spinning off track at just the right moment, then they can get that shot. But I think a lot of
and that's kind of my job. I'm supposed to make bad drivers look good and make good drivers look great. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can do that.
I think a lot of those. I think that they would have benefited from a seat time car just to learn the basics of car control. Like every single one of those guys that wasn't in control of their car,
or even
if they would have had a 350Z or even just like a stock 350Z to go thrash in a parking lot, just to learn like when you're full lock understeering, don't slam on the throttle like it's just going to make things worse, which I saw lots of times. And even simple things like maybe they could have adjusted tire pressures and not even had to raise their car or anything like that. And that could have helped.
It looked
and then
like
just
a lot of the basic setup stuff like tire pressure and things like that. If the knowledge was there for them, or like they went to go seek it out, I feel like that would just in general help them a ton. Because I don't remember who I was talking to, but half of drifting is car setup.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think it's more than that. And then, so something on that I want to say is that, like, we need to, these guys need to reel in the ego a little bit. And I was walking through the pits, and me, I'm a really nice guy, very approachable, easygoing. And I'm also a driving instructor with a lot of experience. So I can convey things in a way that are easy to understand, that don't feel like I'm, talking down to someone or demeaning. And I even talked to a couple of drivers trying to give them some really simple, like, guidance, and none of them wanted to hear it. They were all just like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you telling me how to drive my car?" And I'm like, I was just trying to help you out, man. I saw you out on track, and I thought you could use a little bit of assistance, and none of them wanted to hear it. So I was like, okay, no big deal. Keep having fun. Keep doing you. And I didn't like push, but I was genuinely trying to help them and none of them were willing to accept or listen. So that's kind of unfortunate,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's definitely it's an interesting idea, um, and it I think that kind of stems from like a car show background. Like you saw those beautiful S13s that were parked in like
Oh, they're
the pit
gorgeous.
area that were they obviously have never seen a track in their life, but it's just
No,
like um, I think it comes from that and just this is their chance to kind of show off a little bit,
right.
and I don't know if it's and the thing to me if I was getting into drifting, which I do want to eventually when I actually have that's a long story. I won't get into. But
Yeah,
but I
money.
mean, to me, I think just being able to progress and drive with your friends well and do all that kind of stuff, I think that would be one of my main priorities. Um, just before you start getting into the $3,000 wheel category and
Right.
super rare body kits and and making it low so you lose your body kit every other
Yeah, and I think
run.
I think a lot of them are have this Japanese dream in their head, or this iconic, image that is in their head. But the Japanese drivers never did that. Like all of them learned how to drive before putting the fancy parts in their car,
hmm
and so these guys are doing it backwards, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. All right. So say it's 2009 again,
Okay.
and you want to get into drifting. Well, but it's not
Mhm.
2009 because it's 2020, and you have now the options of 2020 cars now. Say you back in
Yeah, yeah.
2009 had no money, but wanted to get into drifting. What are you doing?
Back then or now?
Well, imagine what you were like in 2009, but now.
Right. So I was an idiot, and I didn't listen to anyone. Oh, I'm getting a call. Hold on.
He's so popular.
Yeah. I didn't listen to anyone. I thought I knew everything. I was a stupid ass 20-year-old or whatever. And
hmm
I would say the biggest downfall was not taking a instruction or a lesson from someone who is smarter and more experienced than me.
hmm
And that has to do with a bit of ego and a bit of cost too. When I was younger, $1,000 or $1,500 to pay someone how to teach me how to drive a car seemed like an astronomical price, right?
Right.
But if I was smarter, I would have known that spending that 1,500 or 2 grand on a weekend of instruction is going to save me $100,000 in the next 2 years of mistakes that I'm going to make. So that's really what I would say to anyone wanting to begin or start driving or drifting is go to a school that's local, that is trusted, that has good instruction, and just listen to them and soak in all the information. Ask every question you've ever had and pay attention. Don't be an asshole and ask a question and then forget the answer or do what you're
Right.
going to do anyway.
hmm
And just really listen and learn from their experience because that's really what you're paying for.
hmm
You're not necessarily paying for the seat time or the tires or the fuel. You're paying for all the mistakes and money that person has wasted over the years of their career to get where they are today. And
Right.
that would be the biggest takeaway. Like, I instruct at 3 different racing schools now here in Austin.
hmm
I instruct with Rally Ready, which is rally driving, front wheel drive, all wheel drive, or rear wheel drive.
You know.
And that's training in the dirt with lots of different techniques that are really
Right.
fun and
hmm
cool. I teach with Audi driving experience at Circuit of the Americas, so I can teach you how to properly negotiate a line and work on braking, threshold braking, and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just started up as an instructor with Texas Drift Academy, and so we teach drifting in 350Zs down in San Antonio Raceway.
Nice.
So there's something for everyone, and like I've at this point in my career, I've been doing it about 5 years. I've instructed hundreds of students. I've never ever had one person that didn't learn anything,
hmm
including instructed pro drivers. I've instructed very experienced drivers, and even they have been able to learn something from our schools that we teach in. So that would be my number one. And then number two would be like get a car that's simple that you can afford and go drive the damn thing. Don't focus
Right.
on parts and mods and crap that you want to buy on the internet that's going to take the car down for a month or more. Just go drive it, drive it, drive it, drive it, and make one upgrade at a time so you can appreciate that upgrade and you can spend all the other money that you would spend on track time and tires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's stuff that you would be looking out for though? Say you're still driving the car. What are good things? I know a lot of people say to do like bolt checks and bolt overs and stuff. Say you had a stock 350Z. What? So this is like for someone that really doesn't know much about cars in general, but still wants to get into it. What's the good things for to be looking over, event to event, kind of looking at the car, whatnot?
Yeah, so just try and really pay attention to all the little things that the car is trying to communicate to you. Car communication is a big thing. So, if you feel a little vibration, if you feel, or you hear a noise or you something like that, don't be afraid to check it out. It's a lot of times it's just a very obvious thing. You don't have to be a pro mechanic or know everything about this car. If you get underneath it and you see something wrapped up around the drive shaft, well, that ain't supposed to be there,
Yeah.
So like little stuff like that, check your
Mm-hmm.
tire pressures, check your torques on your lugs and everything,
Mm-hmm.
check for leaks, and if you do have a leak, address it and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Check your fluids, always check your fluids. Check your fluids before the event, at lunch, and then again before you load it up on the trailer. And, just really pay attention to little stuff. Smells, sounds, and vibrations and stuff are going to be your big telltale signs.
Yeah.
And then, make small adjustments at a time. Don't change the tire pressure and the shock adjustment at the same time. Try and just change one of them and actually feel it. And another thing is your psychology, right? So whenever I put my helmet on and I put my gloves on, and I always wear gloves when I drive, it becomes a psychological thing. So I know that I'm not driving a simulator. This is not a video game. This is not a time to dick around. I'm going to have fun, of course, but this is a time for me to focus on driving and make sure that I improve every lap from the previous lap. So if you find yourself getting worse and worse and worse, you need to take a break. You need to reevaluate. You need to figure out what you're doing wrong. And then next time you go back out there, make sure that you got your head screwed on straight, get your gloves on, click in, tighten your harness, tighten everything, become one with the car, and then allow it to communicate to you. And really, you have to listen.
It's an interesting topic, and I don't think I've ever discussed it with anyone. Is this psychological? But there's definitely drivers, especially in competition, that'll get into their head, and then so
Right.
like you watch them in practice, and they're amazing, just ripping, and on people's doors. But as soon as it comes to comp, they can't not spin out, or like they
Right.
just can't put a run together. And
Right.
the psychological aspect of it too is actually something that nobody really hits much. Obviously, I'm sure you do in some of your schooling and stuff. Um,
Right.
but can you want to kind of go more in depth with like just basic stuff that you see a lot of drivers struggle with psychologically? Is it just
Yeah.
getting too much in their head, or like what do you
Yes.
usually see?
Yeah, that is something we do and teach in the different schools that I teach in, especially rally school, because rally has no margin for error. You have no
Correct.
chance to spin off track because you hit a damn tree and you kill yourself, right? So,
Yeah.
or you definitely end the car in your race for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and very high risk of injury. So,
Yep.
we do talk about making sure that you control your breathing, making sure that you attempt to control your heart rate, try and use the adrenaline that is, coursing through your blood in order to slow down time and really hyper focus on all of the things that you have been instructed to do. So for us, a big one is eyes up. Our eyes are a data collection mechanism. We use them to scan the horizon and bring in information. And as you've driven for many years, your hands and feet, they're just doing what your eyes tell them to. So wherever you look, where you're going to go. So that's the number one thing, is look where you want to go. Don't look where you're going, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
And then the other thing is remember that, this is not a video game. And a lot of people use simulators to train, and that's a great thing, I think. However, you have to remember that when you get out of the sim, you are driving a real car, or even better, in my opinion, is when you're driving the sim, you're driving a real car. So, don't crash that thing. Don't do stupid hand things. Don't be like sipping on a drink or talking to your girlfriend or like not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, stop in the middle of the road, pull off on the outside, or pull into pits. And even so much as the fact, like I've trained myself to where, like, if I crash the car, I got to put $20 in a jar, because or I have to. If I total the car, I'm done for the day, and I don't get to come back until the next day. So that really, puts the pressure on you, and allows you to use it as a training tool, not just as a video game to fuck around with your friends.
Right.
Another thing is too, when you're practicing at the racetrack, and if it's a competition scenario, you need to practice as if you're in competition. So when you're jamming with your buddies and you're just in practice having a good time, you're much more relaxed. And then when all of a sudden, whenever there's only you two on the track and there's a competition guy flagging you down, now you panic and lose all your marbles. That shouldn't be how it goes. So instead, what you can do is line up with someone and practice an exact tandem run, side by side. Tell the course worker to give you a flag drop or however you guys launch, and then practice exactly like you would a tandem competition or tandem battle, and then switch sides and do it again, and use that to help calm your nerves and help practice actually competing without having to do it when it matters, when it counts.
That makes sense, and it's interesting because you'll find the mentally tough drivers out there, and then you'll definitely see the ones that struggle with their psyche when it comes down to big events. And it's a very interesting topic that it's hard to grasp, because if everyone knew it, you wouldn't see people mess up like that, and the thing is, it happens in the pros too, all the time.
I mean, it happens with everyone. It happens with me. It happens with every driver I've ever met. Lewis Hamilton, even. Like no one's perfect every lap, and everyone has something to learn and to improve on.
Yeah, that's cool. See, this is why I do this stuff, so I can learn about stuff about this, because that's not something that you think about getting into drifting at all. You just think about the car. You think, oh, well, maybe I should adjust tire pressure or something like that, or something like that. And sometimes it's just staying focused and doing what you've been practicing. For some people, it's their entire lives, and so that's definitely a big aspect of drifting that definitely needs to be addressed.
Right. Absolutely.
That's cool.
That's just touches on the whole go take a lesson thing. That's what I mean by you're learning from the instructor's experience. You're not paying for the fuel in the car that you just burned up. That wasn't close to $1,500, but you are learning from all the thousands of dollars I've wasted doing things wrong.
Right, exactly. Interesting. So, have you been driving the same car pretty much since? Well, how long have you had the S14 for?
Dude, it is the same car since day one. I've never totaled it so bad that I had to get rid of it or wad it up. I will never sell it. Yeah. Unless someone gave me $1 million for it, I wouldn't sell it. Actually, I have it listed on my website for sale for $1,001.
So I just want to know if you'd even be worth much, just because how much of the car is original, or how much have you basically replaced on?
So, she's straight as an arrow. I had it on a framing machine for hyperdrive, and I got it within 1 millimeter of the OEM specifications, and OEM tolerances is 3 millimeters. So I'm actually straighter than stock.
There you go.
Yeah. So she's a trooper. It does have a tube front and a tube rear. It's got a full roll cage inside. There's not a lot left that's Nissan. I think the steering column and the steering rack are still stock, but there's not a whole lot left, obviously. But yeah, it's been a hell of a car, and I couldn't see myself driving anything else unless it was given to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you have a lot of experience driving other chassis at all, or drifting other chassis?
Yeah, I'm gaining more and more as I keep keep living this dream here. I've driven quite a few. Unfortunately, if it's like a friend or someone who wants me to jump in their car, I don't get a lot of seat time to where I can really start to figure out all the little intricacies of it. But I've driven a handful of 350Zs. I actually just got to go ice drifting in Minnesota with Josh Robinson and Texas Drifting. And like, that was the gnarliest thing, dude. It was so much fun.
What's
it was
like
basically
drifting on ice?
It's basically like driving an FD car is the best way I can describe it. I've not driven an FD car, but I can imagine like basically in any gear, if you full throttle, you're spinning the tires. Like it doesn't matter how fast you're going. So there's very little grip. So it's really helps you dial in and practice your throttle control. And two, if you lift off the gas, you immediately go off track. So it helps you with commitment too. So if you have commitment issues, ice drifting is a really good training tool. And it also makes you rely on throttle steer, which I am a big proponent of. And I always try and instruct people to steer with the rear because the steering wheel doesn't do shit. Like the ice tire, like even though they're studded tires that are made for ice, they don't do anything. So you have to use throttle and wheel speed and, maintain that momentum in order to get the car to go where you want it to. That was really, really good training and a lot of fun. I'm going to go back every year for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. It's different because I personally have like it's a Saab 92X, so basically a Subaru wagon. And so like I do, like the fun donuts and stuff in the snow, but I believe it's probably nothing like driving on ice and stuff. Even though so do you have more grip? So like obviously you've done the rally racing and stuff. Do you have more grip on gravel or more or on ice with studded tires?
I think if you're on gravel with gravel tires, you have more grip. But if you're on gravel with street tires versus ice with studded tires, the ice actually has probably equal grip. I won't say more, but and we were on like proper studded tires. They were rally tires with 340 tungsten 7mm studs on them. They were like very legit. The tires were $500 each. So yeah, they were not cheap. However, dude, we did hundreds of laps and we never replaced them. Like, wow. And that was another thing is that the seat time on ice drifting is unbelievable. I mean, the only thing we did without making mistakes, the cars are pretty well prepared. They've got bushings and angle kits and all the typical stuff for reliability. But like, we just put gas in them. We just checked the oil and put gas in them, and we did lap after lap after lap. So the repetition and the seat time and the muscle memory is what really was a huge takeaway. Our students, every single one of them, did at least 100 laps, even in a half a day. Wow. Because it was just back to back to back hammering. You never had to stop. You never had to cool the car down. You never had to change tires. You never had to do anything. We would just put gas in them and go. Wow. So that particular, that's better than any other form of driving, in my opinion, just for learning than you can do because of the back-to-back repetition.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
The other sweet thing was that it was on a frozen lake, right? So everything's just flat. And so we'd take like any Google Map image of any racetrack in the world, and we would show the guy who was helping us there, and he has a plow in front of his truck. And he would just go plow it. And I mean, it was GPS accurate. Any track you can imagine. So we did Okayama Circuit. We did some of the things from Ebisu. We did Fiji. We did, American courses. Like anything you could imagine, any size, any scale. And you just go out there. And if the track gets rutted up or like you get tired of it or whatever, you just 300 yards away, plow a new track. And there you go.
That's so cool.
It was the coolest thing ever, dude. Like, no matter what you wanted to drive in any configuration, you could do it.
That's cool. What lake was this again on?
So it was in Minnesota, about an hour north of Minneapolis. I don't know the exact lake. I couldn't tell you, but
gotcha.
Josh, I believe, does plan to do this for kind of like an ice drifting module every year. And so we, if we go back here next year, I encourage anyone to come out. If you want to come out and maybe trade some media seat time or something, that'd be rad.
There you
go. Have a blast and very little consequence. That if you go off track, you just kind of hit like a 8-inch snowbank that you just
Right.
drive over, like nothing happens. So it's really forgiving and really conducive for learning.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
because
awesome.
I keep seeing his Drift Academy stuff all over the place, so it's
Right.
definitely cool to see. Um, that's awesome though. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like there's so much out there that wasn't there 10 years ago. So like
Yeah.
opportunities
Absolutely. I
to
don't.
do anything, basically anywhere in the country, there's something that you can go do that's going to be really conducive and affordable for people to get into this. And it's something really cool to see. And, something that's, I think, misconstrued is like people think drifting's really expensive compared to other motorsports. But if you really think about it, um, it's really
It's one of
not.
the cheapest, if not the cheapest.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that people gotta think about is a track day at like on a race course, and you wouldn't just go tracking. I mean, that's that's a lot. What's the normal track day down down by you? Like if you want to go
Um,
take a car out and you just go tracking.
like
Like
at Circuit of the Americas, it's
yeah.
15 bucks to drive.
And how many laps is that? Is like a couple
Yeah,
sessions a day kind of thing?
yeah, so you could get 3 20-minute sessions per day, maybe four if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're talking an hour and a half of total track time, maybe 2 hours if you're really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's broken up into 20-minute sections. And then, you're always going to have an out lap, and you're going to have a warm up lap, and you have
Mm-hmm.
a couple pace laps, and you have a cool down lap. And that's if no one throws a yellow flag and screws up. So
Right.
your session could be cut short. And also that's if your car doesn't have a problem, which
Mm-hmm.
we all know that's basically impossible, at least in the
Mm-hmm.
first session. So
Right.
not only that, like the chance of consequence is much higher on a proper track day.
You
You
know,
know?
it's drifting's probably one of the safest motorsports you can do.
Yeah, agreed. So let's say you're going 80 miles an hour in drift sideways, and someone else comes and they bump you and they're going 85. Well, that's only a 5 mile per hour crash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're on a race car and you screw up and blow a braking zone and you're on the brakes hard and you hit a wall, even if you hit the wall at 40, that wall is going nowhere. So you went 40 to 0. You absolutely totaled your car, maybe injured yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it was only 40 miles an hour. So yeah, maybe drifting like has more incidences per event, but they have much less damage and bodily injury per event too. So
Correct.
it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, you go to these grid lights. I remember Road Atlanta last year. I mean, I think I saw a Corvette, like a C7, just get destroyed. I think I saw a Viper get destroyed.
Yeah, I saw
It,
that too.
it's nuts, the
Yeah.
consequences that happen, at speed and stuff like that. And you don't even want to talk about like money when you get into rally. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, with rally, you can't like do a formal rally event without a roll cage and a whole bunch of safety gear, if I'm correct.
For
You
sure.
know.
You can do Rallycross, and it depends on your region. So
Mhm.
Rallycross is basically autocross for rally cars.
Yep.
Not quite as lame, but it's slower speeds. It's typically with cones in a field with anything to hit really, and it's actually a lot of fun, and it gives you a chance to kind of like test your skills against your buddies or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's low speed, low impact, and it's not very expensive either. It's pretty inexpensive. But it
Right.
doesn't give you that adrenaline, at least for
Rush.
me.
Mhm.
There's no wheel to wheel. It's all single runs.
Mhm.
It's very controlled. You're going to get, I don't know, between 6 and 10, 30 or 40-second laps in a day.
Mhm.
Unlike drifting, where you can drive as much as you have tires for.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is like drifting's such a great sport all around to get into, whether it's just the theatrics of it, how cool everything looks, to what it actually teaches you, driving wise outside of that. I think, if I remember correctly, was it Harrison that got into an accident and he had to drift out of it to basically save his life.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, that's accurate. He was in a little Miata, and a truck came over like a railroad track, basically. Drunk driver into his lane, and he, had to swerve out of the way. He still totaled the car completely, but he did save his own life by having some car control and like instant reaction time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And it's always good to have that regardless, I think. And it's cool. I, I don't, it's in, so like, even if you think of it, like, the industry itself, drifting is a very young people sport, very young. Um, and then you'll always have the older generations, whether it's in drag racing or dirt track or whatnot. Um, but I feel like that drifting is just growing. Not only is the young people sport, I feel like older people are starting to have fun and get into it as well. Have you kind of noticed that with like your lessons and stuff too?
yeah, for sure. I think the media is doing a good job of helping show that
Hmm.
drifting is rad and like it's not just for broke idiots and behind Walmart parking lots.
Right.
But another thing too is like a lot of my students, both rally and some drifting, they are coming from other worlds of motorsports, and everyone could use some car control, and that's where drifting is the paramount. It's the
Hmm.
most car control you can have. So like I've had Porsche Cup or Ferrari Challenge drivers come out to train, and they literally, I'm just like, I'm going to train you how to drift because you know how to drive. You're a rock star when you're in grip, but as soon
Hmm.
as the car starts to get upset or slide, then you panic, right? And
Right.
so they'll always lift off the gas or like hammer the brakes or whatever. And I'm
Hmm.
like, all of those are bad things. You need to be confident and know just a little bit of counter steer and roll into the throttle and then look where you want to go. And so by the end of that, they've learned a ton, and they're able to take that back to their own discipline and use it. Maybe you don't use it every day or every corner or even every race,
Hmm.
but it's kind of like a toolbox. Dave at the Rally Ranch taught me this analogy. It's like you see a professional mechanic with a massive $100,000 toolbox, and they only ever use 3 or 4 drawers,
Right.
wrenches and sockets and stuff, except for that one specialty drawer at the bottom that whenever the time is right, you dig into that tool and you pull out that tool, and it saves you 3 hours of work because
Right.
it's the right tool for the job. Well, same with drifting. Even if you're not drifting every corner, being able to drift a corner when 2 cars in front of you collide and spill oil on the track,
Hmm.
and now here you are slipping around instead of wadding up your $500,000 Ferrari, you
Right.
can just slide around them, wait half a lap while the oil dries up, and then keep going, and you didn't even
Hmm.
lose any positions on track.
Yeah. It's an interesting point as well. Yeah, that's cool. Again, I love doing this stuff because I love learning. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
awesome. You got any other topics that you think would be kind of cool to just bring to the public? We've already talked about a ton of cool stuff. So
For sure. I think I'd like to say something about like there's some animosity between some of the Texas drivers and some of the final bout drivers, and like there's a bunch of drama online
yeah,
right now, and it's so silly and sad. I mean, it's like you know we all love drifting. We all love this silly sport that is it's growing, but it's not like it's the biggest sport in the world or anything. And so we kind of need to stop being such dickheads and band together
right.
and be cool with each other. It's like maybe you like pineapple on your pizza and maybe I hate it, but we both
Hmm.
like pizza, right?
Right.
So let's you can eat your pizza
We're
and
on the
enjoy
same
your
team.
yeah, we're on the same team. We're both team pizza. Like,
Right.
lasagna's not taking over. You know what I mean? Just relax and like just let it be and chill with each other. There was a lot of things about Final Bout I didn't know, so
Hmm.
I applied for Final Bout. I did not get accepted.
Hmm.
I was a little bit bummed about that because I wanted to represent Texas, and
Yeah.
I feel like my car looks cool enough, and I have enough of a experience level that I should be accepted. But I didn't get accepted, and that's fine.
Hmm.
And what I learned later, is Sebastian actually explained this to me, is that 50% of the points of Final Bout is the car show. I had no idea that that was a thing. I had
Hmm.
no clue that there was even a car show at all. And
Right.
then another part that this is the bigger takeaway is that they're not trying to get cars to adhere to their criteria, meaning super low, real wheels,
Hmm.
cool body kits, rare Japanese parts, that sort
Hmm.
of stuff. They are trying to let the people that already live that lifestyle or already are into that
Mm-hmm.
have somewhere to showcase their car. So that was a big, like, just kind of changed how I perceived this event. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, oh, okay, well, obviously I'm not living the low life. I don't have the craziest body kit or like
Mm-hmm.
the flakiest paint or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I care about aesthetics but that made it a lot easier for me to realize like, okay, this just isn't my event and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a part of it, but I'm still here hanging out and we can
Mm-hmm.
still be friends and I
Right.
can still give you a high five and watch you drive
Mm-hmm.
and there you go.
Yeah.
So that's, I just want to say to the public, like
Mm-hmm.
whoever's listening, quit being such a dickhead.
Yeah, Sebastian's really good at, talking about
I
that kind
love
of stuff.
Smash,
Dude.
sure.
And that's the cool thing is like drifting I found the coolest people, the most real people that you'll find
Right,
ever is in drifting.
for
Um
sure.
and that's the thing. And you right, he makes a good point on like there isn't, like really an avenue for people that just want to, show off their car and then maybe do slide around a couple corners. So, and it
Right.
makes sense to where they might get intimidated by someone that has been drifting for 10 years and just can throw backwards entries everywhere he goes, and just
Yeah.
and then he's just kind of left there, like, oh well, I can't do that, and part of me thinks like, well, maybe you should go ask him and go learn and you can get better, but not everyone can do that, so I
Sure.
definitely kind of see where they're coming from as well, and final bout's such an interesting it's such an interesting phenomenon on how like that specific event just gets so much attention,
Right.
or the final bout organization just gets so much attention. I mean, whether it's from the media or whatever, it's a very it's just interesting to kind of see how the dynamics work. Because
Mhm.
you can go to just a really cool normal grassroots event with tons of cool driving and stuff, but you're not going to get that kind of crowd at all to it. So it kind of the way I see Fun About it is it's kind of like a bridge gap between the car show scene and drifting, and that's kind of where those two meet. Um, because if you're being honest, there's definitely a big disconnect between I feel like drifting and like the car show scene. There's just two
Yeah. Sure.
totally different, I guess, ways of thinking.
Mhm. And it really is like it's not a competition in the sense like drifting typically is with tandem and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even the team tandem aspect, that's just a chance for buddies to go out and like have car pictures of their cars together. But Final Bout literally, and this maybe I'm wrong, but this is what
Mm-hmm.
my takeaway is. Literally is just a chance for these guys that have these really beautiful drift cars to get a photo or two of them sideways on a racetrack because
Mm-hmm.
they will otherwise never see that. And quite frankly, they don't want to take them to a regular event that there's a chance they could get beat up, or maybe
Right.
they have other priorities, which is fine. Everyone's got their own way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is a chance for them to have that. Now, I don't understand why they would travel so far to Texas for like that kind of event. I don't know. Maybe less people travel as far as I think, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, there's teams from Atlanta, Florida, all over the country. So, but yeah, and it makes a lot of sense what you were saying though about it is really kind of their time to shine, I guess you could say. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, I I haven't seen anything online, but that's just probably because I don't actually, believe it or not, I'm actually not online a whole lot because I'm so
yeah.
busy with all the other stuff I do. Like all these guys put
Work.
out
You
these
don't have
really
time to like talk crap on the internet.
right. I don't have time to go look at other people's vlogs and stuff, and people ask me all the time, "Oh, did you see this guy's video?" I'm like, "No, I."
Yeah,
I got too many things I have to deal with.
right.
No, it's like I said, drifting's been such a good thing to me. It's not like it's been like such an awesome experience for you. And the biggest thing is just getting more people involved and more people enjoying the sport.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
that's the big thing. All right, buddy. So you want to give them like quick plug on just basic where they can find you, what do you do, kind
Yeah,
of cool stuff. Hit them with the hit them with
yeah.
everything you got.
Plugs. You got it.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing I think if you guys wouldn't mind going in and checking out my YouTube channel and following that,
Mhm.
subscribing to that, it really helps me kind of grow. And I post all the cool stuff I do on there,
Mhm.
sometimes more quickly than others. But
Mhm. It's Fielding
the
Shredder,
drift,
right?
yeah, just type Fielding Shredder into
Mhm.
YouTube and you'll find it. And the Drift Week footage is all coming out. It's been really fantastic and it's being well received.
Yep.
I've got other drifting stuff on there and hyperdrive stuff and whatnot. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just at Shredder Racing. Simple as that. And
Such a
yeah,
badass name.
thanks, dude. Don't be afraid to reach out and say hi, or if you see me at an event, just come and give me a high five and say what's up. Like, I'm pretty easy to talk to, and sometimes we do ride-alongs, and if you want to ride in my car, it's always a lot of fun. So yeah, just want to keep enjoying drifting and sharing the sport and having a good time, you know.
Awesome. Same here. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, go check out Fielding on his all his platforms. He does a lot of cool stuff, and he's actually like, I will give you this compliment. You are one of the best drivers at doing your social media, and I really appreciate it because it's very hard to find those people. as
Appreciate that.
as
It's a
as
lot of work, but I try.
yeah, and the thing is, I work with a lot of drivers on doing social media and stuff like that. And it's just, it's hard. It takes a lot of work to put out content. I know,
Yep.
because I do it.
Yeah,
It takes up a lot of time and a
it
lot of
does. It's the
effort.
worst
So,
part of the job, to be honest. Like,
hmm
if I could just drive the car, if I was a rich kid and I would
hmm
just drive the car, not even have Instagram, that would be amazing. But that's
right.
not how it is.
That's how this works. All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, man. Thanks again. Appreciate it.